welcome back, guys. Time for part 5. Now let's go. Let's get right into it. Let's double check all the stuff that we've done so far. Last time we finished up a couple doors and some wall pieces. Let's get all these loaded up here. So we left off with this. I got all those placed. And then I went back and I double checked a couple things, and for the wall sections up here, we have these bars that I put into the texture, but the problem was we have these pipes that are actually 3D, so when they go to the corner of the wall, they just kind of stop and hover there. You can see I zoomed in a couple parts in part 4 where that happened. So I went back and I just made my own little section like this that I could stick on each corner. And then I just repeated that up and down. So that actually hides the pipe and it gives more depth to the room, which is what we needed because it looked pretty flat with just the wall texture. So that helped bring the room together. And I think these are the new parts that I've been working on. I got this little motor panel, or whatever you want to call it. It's got the red and green light and this weird like condenser. I don't know. It could be anything. It's like a vent. And then I got this sphere scanner droid, Roomba, whatever you want to call it. It's really cool though. I like the way it turned out. It's very simple, but I don't know. It's just, I wish I had more than one of these in the room just because it's so cool. But nah, that's fine. I got the barrel. That's pretty generic barrel. Nothing fancy about that one. And then I got that manhole cover thing, and on here I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be like a manhole panel or cover or some sort of crawl space underneath all this stuff, or if it was actually supposed to be a panel with stairs going down, and that's their attempt at making it kind of fade into the darkness if you go down the stairs. I don't know. So I thought it was just a manhole cover type deal, so I made one of those with 2 handles on it. But yeah, those are the newest additions. So the wall piece up here, which I will go over in a sec, and then these other things, which I already have placed. Now the barrel is the kind of the weird one here, just because in the game it's about 1.5 tiles high as its sprite, but upon looking at it, it actually sits pretty much in a 1x1, maybe a little over into other tiles. So it's a little bigger than a 1x1. So I made it almost the exact same size, but on here the perspective is off on the drum. From what I have, my orthographic is 45 degrees angled down, I believe, and then I get a lot more top showing on here. But I know this is just a sprite, it's not that big of a deal. It was just interesting seeing that the perspective on this one is slightly different than what the room is at 45 degrees. So this is probably like a 30 degree or something. But looking at it, this sits on 1 tile, and then Chrono can move past it whenever it gets moved by the crane thing over here, and then he can run through, get through the area. But the way we have this tile, these tiles down here below these barrels, there's actually space below it, so really Chrono could have just went down and around it, but they didn't let you do that in the game. So on here I actually put this kind of in the middle between those 2 tiles, so that way it looks a little better, and it still lines up for the most part. But let's take a look at our room. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, and I put a couple green arrows up here just to help me line up a couple things and making sure that that was the right height. I just wanted to double check, and it lined up for the game view, so that worked out. So yeah, if we actually look at this angle, you can see we have 2 tiles to work with, so Chrono could just walk around it. Especially if it was where it's supposed to be. So that's how it would look, but... in our game view, so yeah, it's a slightly different angle on the barrel itself. It's tilted down, but that's just the sprite, how they did it. But even with our adjustments and moving that down, I made the barrel a little bit taller so it lines up a little better from this view. And then I've just been placing various odds and ends around the room. I've been working on the walls and getting all this stuff worked. Well, up here I had to delete, well, not delete, but I duplicated these wall, like this pathway panel up here, this grating, and then I duplicated that around. And I just duplicated it just because it has the side texture that kind of goes underneath this. And you can see that trim right here goes the whole way around, pretty much the entire room. So it's safe to assume it continues up the wall and back around, and honestly, I think the entire place does it. So I went through and I duplicated all of it right around. So that helped kind of, that's what it was missing. It had too much just gray concrete. Now, to be honest, I don't know if it's concrete or if it's supposed to be metal. I thought it was concrete when I looked at it, but it could be metal that has, a lot of water damage or wear on it. And the reason I thought it might be metal too was primarily the other odds and ends, like down here, this door with the green lights on it that we did earlier. Now this one has metal panels right here in the middle, and those have bolts going into those, and then that kind of seamlessly blends into the wall. So that was one reason why I kind of doubted myself there when it comes to if the wall's cement or if it's metal. And down here, it looks like a bunch of metal paneling. So it could very well be metal. And I can go back and I can change it, whichever. But for now, I'm just going to kind of leave it as concrete. In the end, if it's just not, if we're not feeling it, we can change it back. But this time around, for what we're actually going to be making today, I wanted to get some of these pipes out of the way. And there's a lot of pipes in here. And as we talked about when I was in college down at Full Sail, the future will pretty much be pipes and white concrete. Because, when you think of the future here, this nice, clean, like futuristic buildings, and everything's made out of white concrete. We have hover cars, and there's just pipes everywhere. Just pipes all day. I mean, look at the Matrix too. It's just their world is pipes. But yeah, we're going to be working on that today. So that includes the stuff at the top of these, kind of the trim that brings the room together. And this is nice because I can just duplicate a couple parts and then that'll fill out the whole room. So I really only have to make a few tiles for this, and then we'll be squared away on that. And then the other parts I wanted to do down here, we have these metal, gold, yellow pipes, or maybe it's just mechanical parts. I mean, it kind of looks like a bigger engine or maybe a generator. But there's a lot of pipes that are built around it. And I was thinking that, because you can see them underneath this panel over here too. And down here. And also underneath the grating over here. So really there's a lot of whatever that ends up being. So that's one thing that I can make. It'll only take a couple tiles, probably 2. That'd be my guess, maybe 3. And that would fill up a lot of the empty space in the room. So right now we're looking at this yellow one. We got this trim for the room, or the top of the room. And then we got these two large pipes with these big connectors on them. Or maybe it's like a wall brace or something that holds them in. But I think this is the easiest option to start with. And there's a lot of these in the room too. So once we get a couple of these filled out, it's really going to help fill up the room and get us even closer to the end goal of getting this project finished up and getting a video up, showcasing everything. So we're going to do that for now. I really tried to, get some stuff, get as much done as I could. I was trying my hardest to push for completion, at least for the next video, but I just couldn't do it. So this is going to be the last video for this week, and then all of next week I'm not going to be here, as I mentioned in part 4. And then when I get back, we'll get right into it. It might be, let's take a look here. So if anything, I'm going to say maybe the 5th of the 6th. But yeah, I'm just getting sidetracked. So let's get into it. Let's start doing those rose-colored pipes over here. I think that's a good starting point for tonight. So this rune texture for these various objects is really starting to fill up on here. And I can always make this bigger too, if I have to, but I'm curious why my manhole cover is now hidden. That would be why. Oops. Alright, so we got 3 tiles to work with, and that's going to go towards pipes. So I'm going to do the texture first, just because the model is just a couple cylinders that repeat, and a wall brace, which is nothing too bad. And honestly, I could probably just texture one single pipe, and then once that one's textured, I can duplicate it over and then rotate it slightly so it looks like a different pipe. We can do all that in one texture, I think. So on here, it looks like we have, if we kind of take an angle into consideration, it looks like these are almost like handcuffs that go around the pipes. So I'm going to call it a handcuff. So between the handcuffs and a pipe segment, it looks like the pipes are going to be just a 1x1, and then every other segment is going to be a pair of handcuffs. On occasion, we have double handcuffs over here, which is fine. Yeah, it looks like we are right on track with what those need to be. So that worked out good. Just got to get those handcuffs in there. We'll be set. So that does it for our pink pipe. We got everything placed. And you can see on here, down here next to the ether, or ether, whichever you call it, we have the pipe it gets down to about here and then stops. So I got these pipes where they need to be. You don't actually see these last two here, and you don't actually see this. Well, actually you would see the last one. But that's all we can see for now, which is fine. We'll come back later and fill up the scene. But as long as I get this game view looking good, then we can finish up the rest later. And this is looking pretty darn close. I mean, I have these center conveyor belt rooms that I gotta finish, rooms 1 through 4. 4 is kind of the oddball. It's gonna be the same thing as 1 through 3, except it has to also attach into the wall. And then this one down here, this exit room, room 5, if you will. And then I have to do the robotic claw arm, finish up the wall textures, and fill up all this empty space down here that you wouldn't normally see. Now in here you can, from rooms 1 through 3, the very top of them, between this black space between the green arrows, it doesn't actually, it's not a pitch black, it's like it's a slightly lighter black. And then over here, it's black for the very edge of the map. So over here, this edge of the map ends at the same height as these rooms 1 through 3, except it also connects. And down here we have a green arrow, which would mean that the height of the room right here would also be the height as the rest of these, because they have one of these indicating the conveyor. So at this point it has to be that height. And right now my room does not have that. I just have this big wall, so I'm going to have to rework that in order to get it to line up right. Take a look at when I get back from vacation. So we got the pink pipes done though, so that's good. Now we can crank out the yellow pipes and I don't know, I'd say it's like an engine to me. That's what it looks like. A generator or an engine. So I'm going to do that. Make a couple tiles for them. Down here we have one with a tube or pipe that bends 90 degrees, and then you can see part of something down here, whatever that ends up being. And then over on the side you have pipes going from 2 different directions. There's probably going to have to be 3 tiles that link together, I think, at least. And then the rest can just be whatever underneath here. Alright, so now we got our gold and rose colored pipes done. I duplicated those and I spaced them out. Got them where they need to be. Now I can definitely do another pipe tile, but for now I think these 2 look good. Once I get everything else cleaned up, I can just whip out another one real quick. Maybe to just add a little more variety, because right now it's pretty plain Jane, but it fills up all the empty space that we have between these barriers and the walls. These filler pipes in place. Next step, the only other pipe stuff that we have to do is a couple different tiles for the edge around all this black space, like up here and on top of the room. But we'll save that for when I come back. So here's all the tiles that we have, minus the room. So we have pretty much gotten all the important stuff done, minus the rooms themselves. I have some pretty cool plans for that digital screen on this thing. I really wanted to have it either flicker or do something, because on here it's just, nothing's happening. Just like the red lights in the scene, it would really help out if I put something on there. And for me, that looks like a Pip-Boy or something that would have that green, old school Oregon Trail look to it, like an old radar or something. So I gotta figure out what texture I'm actually gonna put on that screen. To me, it's a screen. I know it might be like a porthole looking in, but I think I'm gonna keep it a screen. And this thing that is on is like some backpack panel, and it looks like it does go inside the pillar here, these rooms, just a little bit. So that's gonna be tons of fun. But this part itself is very detailed. And it's almost like a focal point, because when you look at this room, that one part I think is very memorable just because of how much detail and like the uniqueness of it. So we really got to make sure that counts. But we'll do something special for that when we do part 6. So for now, I think that should about do it. So thanks for watching, guys. Let's get a final view of our room here. And up top for these walkways, I still had to figure out how to get some sort of some grating, or not grating, some supports that go up to the ceiling. And then I have to figure out what I'm going to be texturing the ceiling with. I could use the same ground tiles, but I don't think it's going to look quite right. Maybe if I copy that tile and just make it black and white, it would be like a diamond plate, but I don't know why you would put that on the ceiling. I got to take a look at some other things and see if I can figure it out. Maybe do some searching on Google, see what a factory roof would look like. I know they would probably have some support beams coming across, so that would probably be a good way to break up monotony once I just get a default texture up there. It might even be the same metal / concrete, whatever it's supposed to be. But yeah, it's just something to think about. Good. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Till next time, have a good night.